The Christmas Quilt by Vannetta, Chapman, Chapter 21. Annie stood close to Leah's bed as both Dr. Kamal and Dr. Reese entered the room Tuesday morning. She had a good idea of what they were about to say, and she had done her best to prepare Leah without coming out and guessing they were going to deliver the babies in the next few hours. The monitors pretty much told it all. Even with the medicines pumping through Leah's IV, her blood pressure was not what Annie would have liked to see. The bigger question was, why was it remaining high? It didn't take Dr. Reese long to move past the pleasantries and into their plan for the day. Your blood pressure isn't settling down as we'd like. Is it something I've done? Not at all. More than likely the placenta is stretched, attempting to pull from the wall as your infants continue to grow. Because of this, we'd like to deliver the babies. Leah, by cesarean section. Leah reached for Annie's hand and twined their fingers together. They had discussed this possibility an hour before, but hearing it from her doctor, well, Annie knew hearing it would be different. I'd hoped it might still be possible to have a normal birth, but it seems nothing about these two boppling is destined to be normal. Dr. Kamal's smile revealed a row of perfect white teeth, as well as the fact that he was completely at ease with what lay ahead. And this will be your first but not your last lesson that children have their own minds, yes? He placed his hands over her stomach as he had done so many times since Leah had arrived. My colleague, Dr. Reese, will make her incision and lift these precious gifts out of your stomach, out of your womb. Then she will hand them over to me, Leah. You will be awake. You will hear their cry of greeting. It may sound like the mewing of a kitten rather than the bawl of a calf, if you'll excuse my animal analogies. I anticipate they will be small babies, tinier than what you're used to seeing in your community. How small? Maybe 5 or 6 pounds, could be more or less, but your last ultrasound indicates this range, which is good. It's a healthy weight. And their lungs? Leah glanced at Annie. You were worried about their lungs when I first arrived. We have given them extra time. Now they should be developed enough to breathe on their own, though I suspect we'll want to give them a little time in the incubator. The room grew silent as all the details sank in. Leah's final question wasn't about the babies or about herself. It was about Adam. Can we wait long enough for my husband to arrive? Dr. Reese's and Dr. Kamal's eyes met. Annie could have imagined it, but it seemed they might have discussed this earlier. We were hoping that 4 o'clock this afternoon would work for you. It seems we both have full schedules until then. Leah closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and nodded. 4 would be good. Annie noticed she didn't ask any questions about the actual surgery or her recovery period. Her sister had matured a lot from the young woman who was huddled in the bathroom floor 2 weeks ago. The doctors had left the room, and Annie pulled up her chair. She handed Leah a cup of water and then explained to her about the length of the incision, the type of anesthesia she would have, and what the weeks of recovery would be like. No doubt others would be in later to go over the same information, but she wanted Leah to have time to digest what was ahead. Leah listened closely, asked a few questions, and then they prayed together for the children, the doctors, and Leah and Adam. When they finished, the clock had finally inched its way to 10 o'clock, so Annie picked up the phone and put through the call to Samuel. It was after lunch when there was a light tap on their door, much too early for it to be Adam and Samuel. Leah had been attempting to nap, but without any success. Annie had been working on the quilt, and overall Sam, purple-colored shirt, blue suspenders, blue pants, and a black hat. She had thought about offering a story about goodness, but Leah had seemed to prefer the quiet. At the tap on the door, a woman peeked inside. She looked vaguely familiar, but Annie couldn't place her. "Excuse me, I don't mean to interrupt." "It's all right," Leah said. The woman stepped further into the room, and that was when Annie saw the boy behind her. There was no mistaking who he was. Her mind traveled back to her days at Mercy too often, and then there were the letters they had exchanged regularly. "Annie?" Before she could store her quilting, he had hurled himself across the room and into her arms. She closed her eyes and breathed in the scent of him. There had been many patients under her care while she worked on the children's floor, but none she had grown as close to as Kipton. "You have grown. I know I'm not a Bopley anymore." He stood straight, and she was surprised to see not only that he had grown, but that his color was good, and he bore no resemblance at all to a cancer patient. There was no doubt about it, though. He was the same boy, with the same eyes that missed nothing, and the same smile ready to pop at the smallest thing. "This is Kipton," Leah asked. "Yeah, and his mother Nadine. It's good to meet you. I'm Leah, Annie's sister." Leah struggled to sit up straighter in the bed, and Annie moved to hand her the controls. "I hope this isn't a bad time." Nadine glanced from Leah to Annie and then to Kipton. "No," Leah tried to wave her left hand, but found the IV had caught in the bed rail. "I can help you," Kipton said. I had lots of IVs when I stayed here. Got real good at tangling and untangling them." "Wait, you would say real good at tangling and untangling them." He grinned as he freed the IV from where it had snagged. "Thank ye, Kipton." Gemgschehne. Annie, that's what Kipton said. Annie clapped her hands. "You remembered all the words I taught you while I was here, and the ones in our letters." "How old are you, Kipton?" Leah asked. "I'll be 12 soon. Mom says I'll outgrow her before I'm 13. I wouldn't be surprised. Your dad's quite tall, and it seems you do take after him." Nadine smiled at her son. She reached out to touch his hair, but he ducked away. "What's with the long hair, Kipton? Last time I saw you—" Annie rubbed her hand on the top of her cap. "It was shiny up there." Kipton laughed, and the sound did more to heal the lonely corners of Leah's room than anything could have. His hand traveled down his head, down the hair fastened into a ponytail in the back. "It grows fast now. I cut it once a year, and donate it to other kids." "Locks of Love," his mother explained. "They make hair pieces for children who can't afford them otherwise." "That's Wonderbar, Kipton." "You taught me that word in our letters," Kipton smiled. Then he focused on Leah. "You're here because of your babies?" Leah nodded. "Are they okay?" "Yeah, thank you for asking." "My mom and dad only have me," Kipton said, suddenly serious. "It's the three of us, so we vowed to look out for each other, "I do." Leah's voice was soft and smooth. Annie could tell that she'd fallen under Kipton's spell, but then who could resist? The boy had a way about him. Perhaps it was his open honesty, or... "We should be going." Nadine hugged her, hesitated a moment, then added, "We happened to be visiting a patient on the old floor this morning. They told us you were here. I hope it was okay to stop by." "It was more than okay." Kipton held up his hand and rolled his eyes when she shook her head in confusion. "You're supposed to high-five it, Annie. Slap it." So she did, and it earned her an extra smile. "I still have the wooden horse Uncle Eli sent me. Tell him, will you?" "I will." "We'll be praying for you and your babies, Leah." Nadine put her hand to Kipton's back to usher him out of the room. As he reached the door, he turned, waved goodbye, and Annie saw again the young boy she had cared for. She sat back down, intending to resume her quilting. Instead, she stared at the squares she'd been sewing. "Goodness," Leah said. "What?" "Goodness was our next gift from the scripture in Galatians, and our next story." "Yeah?" "But this time Scott's in our story. He sent Kipton to visit. Adam practically jumped out of the car before it came to a stop. It was a good thing he'd been to Mercy Hospital before. He knew the way to the information desk, even if he didn't remember the way to Leah's room. What was he thinking? She wasn't in her room. She was having their babies right now. The volunteers at the information desk had apparently been waiting for him. It seemed Annie had called down and alerted them he would be showing up and hurrying to make the birth, but it didn't account for the fact they knew who he was as he dashed up to the desk. Certainly there was more than one Amish farmer in the hospital, more than one Amish farmer expecting children in minutes, or had they already arrived? Right this way, I'll take you to be scrubbed in. What did that mean? He didn't waste any time asking questions or waiting to see if the rest of his family was behind him. They'd find their way. Leah needed him now. Within 15 minutes, he'd removed his coat and covered his clothes with the surgical gown. He'd also scrubbed his hands and donned a mask over his face and a cap over his hair. It would be a miracle if Leah even recognized him. A nurse pushed open the doors to the operating room, and his senses were overwhelmed. Lights, antiseptic smells, blades on a tray, the beep of countless machines. He felt the familiar nausea like he'd experienced in Lewistown. But then he heard a voice, one he longed to hear, and in person, not over a phone line. Adam? Annie, is that Adam? I think it is, though he's scoured clean and looking dapper in those green scrubs. He saw his sister's eyes first on the other side of a partition, and his feet carried him there. When his gaze landed on Leah, his beautiful, precious Leah, all thoughts of fainting fled. Adam grabbed her hand and sank onto the stool that Annie rolled his way at the last second. Am I too late? Nee, I knew you would make it. I told Dr. Kamal you would find a way. Everyone's here. Excellent, a woman, the one he had met when they'd first admitted Leah, the one he'd entrusted Leah's care to, peeked over the drapes separating Leah and Adam and Annie from Leah's stomach. It seems we have one too many family members, but since one is a nurse, I suppose we can allow it. Are you ready, Leah? Yeah. Adam? Yes, thank you for waiting. Dr. Reese's eyes smiled over her mask. We didn't wait. Our last delivery ran a little longer. Seems these babies wanted their dad present. Adam felt something surge in his heart. This was happening. Suddenly it didn't matter if this birth was taking place in Philadelphia instead of their house. He was no longer afraid of fainting. He knew he'd stay strong and remain at Leah's side. He knew without any doubt that God had prepared him for this moment. I love you, Leah, and I love you, Adam. Soon it will be 4 of us. His throat felt as if he had swallowed one of his mother's large biscuits whole, and he was glad the doctor began describing what she was doing. Not that he listened to her exact words. It was background music to Annie's whispered prayers. Before it seemed possible, Dr. Kamal was speaking. His voice calmed the hammering of Adam's heart. His voice was strong and filled with joy and certainty, like those of the men singing at a church meeting. It sounded to Adam like the voice of an angel. We have a fine baby boy here. Dr. Kamal held the child up, and though he was small and not yet clean, he was the most perfect thing Adam had ever seen. His mouth formed a large O, and then he began to cry. Oh, Adam, Leah's voice was a whisper, a breath against his skin. Are you okay? Yeah, it seemed my heart stopped when I saw him. A nurse accepted the child and carried him to a table close by. She'll return him with him soon, Annie assured them. Before Adam could recover from the sight of his newborn, a second howl joined the first. And we have another. 2 sons, Adam and Leah. You have 2 fine sons, nearly identical in weight, though it seems the latter has more hair than the first. Adam looked up over the drape and saw in Dr. Kamal's hand a near mirror image of the first babe, but this one had a full head of curly hair. It was a shock for Adam, seeing their boys, seeing Amos and Ben. Yes, they had thought of names, but he hadn't pictured them, not as actual boys. By the time they had murmured prayers of thanksgiving and shed their tears, the nurse had placed Amos on the bed next to Leah, and Ben within the crook of Adam's left arm. How could anything so small be so precious? How could he be a father worthy of this family? He couldn't, but he would try. With God's help, he would do his best. He made the vow as Leah trailed her finger down Amos's face and ran her hand over the top of his head, which had brown fuzz instead of his brother's curls. We've been blessed, Adam. That we have. Something we'll need to remind each other of when they let the cow out of the pasture or slip out of school early on a spring afternoon. My boys would never do that. Tears coursed down Leah's cheeks, even as she laughed. They are Adam's sons as well, Annie reminded her. A blessing for certain, and it will be years before such pranks. Annie reached for Ben, and Adam carefully picked up Amos. For now they are my sweet babies. Adam couldn't argue with that. He had been given many gifts, faith, love, and family. He couldn't help wondering how old they'd need to be before they could ride with him behind the big workhorses. Probably best if he didn't bring that up at the moment. End of chapter 21.